What's up, guys? Welcome to Nolan Talks. LSU added a transfer linebacker. His name is Mike Jones from the University of Clemson. He was a top recruit in the 2018 recruiting class. He was a top 200 player, four-star recruit. In his career at Clemson, he had 30 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, 1 forced fumble, and that's in 10 games played. This guy's got a lot of experience. He comes from a top program like Clemson. I think he's going to be an instant starter for us. He adds great depth at the linebacker position. I think that was something we really needed to address this offseason. We're returning guys like Damone Clark and Micah Baskerville, but we definitely struggled there at that position last season. I think that was probably our weak spot. I just don't think we were physical enough at that spot. And safety we kind of struggled as well, but I felt like linebacker was our number one struggle this past season, and it was actually pretty cool. I actually saw on Tiger Droppings, someone posted a depth chart at our linebacker position, so I'm just going to read it off real quick. So at the will linebacker position, this goes in order from starter to third on the depth chart. We have Micah Baskerville starting. Antone Sampham, I think he'll be a sophomore. He really didn't see much playing time this past season, so I expect more of that out of him. But he was almost a 5-star recruit out of Virginia, and I'm a little surprised he didn't see the field as much. But hopefully he gets in the weight room, gets stronger, and sees the field this upcoming season. Also, a guy like Jared Small, he doesn't really play much. I don't know if he might be a walk-on, honestly. And middle linebacker, we got Damone Clark. Obviously, he wore number 18 for us this past season and definitely didn't live up to the hype. Towards the end of the year, he was kind of out of the rotation. We got the JUCO transfer. I can't pronounce his first name. I'm going to butcher this so bad. Nvateke Strong. We call him Bug. He's the recruit out of JUCO. He'll definitely compete for being one of the best linebackers on this team for sure. He'll see some playing time, especially anytime a JUCO guy comes in. JUCO guys are always more ahead of like a high school recruit. It's just how it is. They got the college experience, the college weight room. They know how to adjust to being in school. So I think he'll see playing time right away. Also, Greg Penn Jr. He was the recruit out of the Maryland area. He'll be a true freshman. He's third on the depth chart at the middle linebacker position, but that's obviously going into spring. We don't know how it's going to play out on the field. We'll just have to see. And as for our Sam linebacker position, the transfer Mike Jones, he'll probably be a day one starter. He got a lot of experience at Clemson, honestly, and we struggled at linebacker this past season. I mean, the only other guy I have on this depth chart is Josh White, and he was a true freshman last season, and I don't even remember any big plays he made. So I really think that Mike Jones is going to come in, be a day one starter, and it'll be him and maybe him and Damone Clark competing for the number one spot. But it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But I think it's a great. I mean, once again, LSU goes into the transfer portal, gets a great linebacker. Last season we got Jabril Cox. He turned out great for us. Yep, he turned out great for us. Obviously, the season didn't go as planned, but he's a good player. He definitely lived up to the hype coming from North Dakota State. It was gonna be. We were gonna see the the big difference in the skill coming from a small 1A D1 school to the SEC, and a guy like Mike Jones played at Clemson. He's probably played against LSU before in the Natty. He's played at the highest level at a school that competes, and they bring in those top recruits. So I think this guy's gonna be a day one starter for us, and I love him getting a guy like him in the transfer portal. Also, LSU finishes the 2021 recruiting cycle, landing the number 3 class overall, and I can only say the rich get richer. We landed Brian Thomas, 4-star recruit out of Walker, Louisiana. He's 6'4", 190. In 2019, he was roughly 1,300 yards, 17 yards per catch, 17 touchdowns, and he had 70 catches. A year later, though, the team must have had a lot of turnover because his numbers dropped significantly. He had about 500 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns, 30 catches, but he still had that same, 17 yards per catch. So you get this guy the ball in his hand, he's gonna get some yards for you. But he's a big body receiver, great athlete, super quiet kid. His recruiting cycle was really interesting. I remember, earlier in the summer he was kind of Bama lean, and LSU everyone was like, okay, like we don't really have a chance with him. Also, our wide receiver depth is so good. Everyone was kind of like, if we don't land him, it's not the biggest deal ever. But he's a kid from Louisiana. We can't have a guy like him go to like Alabama or Texas A&M. And came down to the wire. He didn't sign on National Signing Day, and then a few days ago he did have a ceremony and he decided to commit to LSU. He didn't tell anyone where he was going. Coach O had no idea he was committing to us that day. And it just shows you, Coach O said he's going to lock down the state of Louisiana, and he did that. LSU literally signed the top 6 players in the state of Louisiana. There was a few guys in there who left and went to A&M, Mississippi State, Florida State, Alabama, and that's going to happen. In a state like Louisiana, there's so much great players. Players are going to leave, and we just have to accept that. But it's very important that we at least land the top players, majority of the top players, because stuff like that's going to happen. And like I said earlier, the rich get richer. I'm going to read off our receivers depth chart for the upcoming season. So first off, we have Keyshawn Butte, Geronte Kirkland, Deion Smith, who's going to be an incoming freshman, Jeray Jenkins, Alex Adams, Brian Thomas, the guy I just talked about, he'll be an incoming freshman, Trey Palmer, Coy Moore, Chris Hilton, another top receiver in the state of Louisiana coming in, true freshman. Jack Besh, true freshman coming in. I think he won Louisiana Player of the Year, honestly. And then Cole Taylor, and man, it's going to be sick. We're absolutely loaded at the receiver position. There's no excuse. There really is no excuse for our offensive coordinator this year. I'm super excited to watch this team. Brian Thomas has been a great recruit. Mike Jones, great transfer for LSU. Great week for LSU, and hopefully things get better. Thanks for listening.